So Checkpoint from a security operations center perspective. Here. So a little bit about me. Thank you, Melissa, for introductions. Just to fill in the gaps, I mainly work as a cybersecurity architect. I started working in cybersecurity 6 years ago, actually thanks to Checkpoint, and since then it has been quite a ride, let me tell you. I'm mainly specialized in network security, and for the past few months, I've been focusing a lot in blue teaming. And as you can see, I have plenty of Checkpoint experience. Let's start with some powerful questions that I have for you. So I know that Checkpoint is magenta, or pink, depends. But today it's all about blue teaming, okay? We're going to get deep into blue teaming. So I have a question for you, network security professionals, and remember that I am one, okay? I honestly want you to think if you think that you are doing your job correctly. Because for me, we are having like a lack of focus within the profession. We are too much focused on setting up VPN tunnels, remote access, troubleshooting firewalls. But I think that we are forgetting about the most important thing, which is security, okay? Of course that we have to provide availability to our customers, but we should also protect them, okay? So this is a simple question that I always ask to my customers. When was the last time that you took care of your IPS? And there's an easy way to ask this is that there are some customers that tell me, hey, Federico, you know what? I have this plenty of web applications published in my firewall, and I feel safe because I have IPS. Okay, so I ask them, but are you inspecting incoming TLS traffic? No, but I have IPS. So there's something wrong with us if we don't provide enough information to the customers, okay? And based on these points, can we really say that we care about security, okay? For me, this was quite a challenge. The way that I found to overcome this was through blue teaming and visibility. And that's why I kind of switched to the focus of the core of cybersecurity. Let's continue. First, some basic knowledge. A SIEM is a technology that is able to ingest different data from different sources and organize it so you can correlate and apply intelligence. By most days, I think that you know what is a SIEM, but you never know. Then, okay, so I have a SIEM. Why do I need a security operations center? This is so funny because there are many people that think that these terms are synonyms, okay? And they don't have anything to do with each and one another. So a SIEM is basically a tool, okay? And in a security operations center, you have plenty of tools going on. And actually tools need humans to make them useful, okay? Second, a security operations center is composed of people, technologies, and processes. So it's kind of more complex than just a tool. And then let me tell you, maintaining a SIEM, it's a lot of work. In our case, in Nynox, we have more than 200 custom rules, okay, correlation rules. We have to maintain false positives every day. We have to create playbooks. So a SIEM is not a tool that you can just plug and play. Okay, there are many customers that do this, and that will not provide any value to your organization. And let's speak about the truth. If you don't have a security operations center, no one is going to watch the SIEM. I have to move myself. And neither any monitoring tool, okay? So just to wrap this up, I'm going to show you how we deliver our service to a Checkpoint customer, let's say. This used to have animations, but this new method of sharing the screen doesn't provide that animation, so let's continue. On the right, you have the Nynox Operations Center, where we deliver incident response, red and blue teaming, security operations, automation, advisory, threat intelligence, hunting, etc. A ton of services, okay? We connect, that's where the processes and technology, processes and people receive, okay? And then we connect to our cloud, where most of the tooling is running. This is where we perform correlations, threat intelligence, we apply indicators of compromise, artificial intelligence, behavioral analytics, and so on and so on. So when a new customer approaches us, the first thing that we do is we try to do a complete assessment on their environment, okay? This customer in particular has a ton of Checkpoint products, so which is really nice because Checkpoint provides a ton of information for your SIEM and your SOC. So we have CloudWare SaaS for Office 365, we have Seamless Agent, we have NGTX in the firewalls, we even have sandboxing, so it's really nice. And in parallel, we have some cool technologies such as Docker, Kubernetes, AWS, other SaaS applications, and of course, hypervisor, Windows servers, and etc. So the first thing that we do is we connect the customer through a VPN tunnel or an API connection, okay, because there are a ton of new products nowadays that use API directly. And we start receiving logs and trying to generate useful information to the customer. More about that soon. Let's continue. So this seems complex. As a security professional, I think that we are in an unfair game because when everything works, nobody sees the value in our work. But when everything fails, we are to blame. So these are the tips that I can give you to get the most out of your security operation, even if you have an in-house SOC or an external SOC, okay? So first, the foundation. There are 3 things that you have to take into account. First, be involved. SIEM and SOCs are going to do miracles by their own. All the parties that you see there, consumers, technology, subject matter experts, and SOC, need to cooperate between them. It's not one responsibility alone from one of these parties. Then, if you want to improve your cybersecurity, you need to cooperate. I get a ton of calls from customers that ask me, hey, Federico, why you didn't see this? And the first thing that I told them is, hey, why your tool didn't detect or prevent that? Of course, then we can see what's going on in our side of the SOC. But you need to cooperate and then have clear expectations and focus on the roadmap. It's not a short-term win. You need to build a roadmap of cybersecurity. You can't implement everything out of the blue. So let's talk about the different parties, okay? First, of course, we have the Security Operations Center. The most important objective for you is to generate information. And you have to generate actionable information, actually. What I'm remarking actionable, because it's really easy for us as a cybersecurity professional to just say no and to just recommend impossible thing. Hey, you know what? You need to inspect the whole traffic, the whole TLS traffic in your network. Hey, you know what? You need to apply this really strict IPS profile to every host in your network. No, we need to understand the situation and assess the consumer of our service and help them in building this actionable plan of security. And then, since you're receiving a ton of information, you are able to find the gaps within their infrastructure, okay? We are going to go in depth with this. And as a consumer, you don't have to do many things. You already have a ton of responsibilities. A consumer can be a customer or a manager or any other area, okay? You just need to be involved, okay? Don't just demand to the SOC or to the technology subject matter expert. Just be in the process and try to understand at best and trust with the 2 other parties. And then as a technology subject matter expert, in this case, it's going to be the person or team that maintains your checkpoint infrastructure. You have to keep learning security, okay? You can't just deploy an appliance and continue with your life. You need to try new blades. For example, content awareness. Why anyone is using content awareness? For me, it's one of the best blades that Checkpoint has. So you, as a Checkpoint expert, should recommend your consumers and your stakeholders to try these new features and see if you can improve cybersecurity in your company. And of course, you need to deploy the preventive measures that the SOC is trying to recommend to you, okay? So far, no comments in the chat from Melissa, that's great. So why do we need a SIEM or SOC if these new firewalls are so powerful? The same applies to XDR technologies. Come on, if you log into the smart event, you kind of have this small SIEM of all your checkpoint things. But the thing is that there are some benefits that the Security Operations Center can provide to you that the tools alone can't. And this applies to any tool in the market. It's not about checkpoint, okay? So first of all, in order to gain monitoring, you need to generate data and quality data. And if you set up your checkpoint devices or technologies and forget about them and don't fine tune them and don't use it to their full potential, you are not going to generate anything. So when you onboard a SOC or a SIEM into your infrastructure, you are going to see that because you are not seeing anything. Okay, so we are going to talk about this later. And then the SOC is the last line of defense of your organization. We always should prioritize prevention, but we can't discard detection. Okay, if something happened, if everything else fails, still you need to have the last line of defense that is able to prevent that breach. So as I told you, Checkpoint has a ton of functionalities and it's an amazing product, as I can tell. So a SOC will help you to find those misconfigurations, recommend new functionalities, for example, improve your IPS, your threat prevention policies, implement this new blade. And once you start working with that, you can achieve infinity, which is having the whole Checkpoint fabric working seamlessly to protect your organization, okay? So to summarize this, Security Operations Center is eyes on glass 24/7 or during working hours. It depends on the organization. It provides detection as a last line of defense. It provides incident response, and it provides advisory, okay? There are plenty of more services, but these are the most important ones. So the fun part, tips and tricks from the field, okay? We're going to see real use cases that we face each day with Checkpoint customers. Visibility above anything else. There's something that I like to call meaningful visibility that will allow you to dramatically increase your cybersecurity posture with Checkpoint and any product in the market, okay? Open source or proprietary, we don't care. In this case, we're going to focus on the specifics of Checkpoint. The first question that you need to ask yourself if you're a SOC or use a SOC or a SIEM is, are we able to see? And this part focus on the assets, okay? So initially, we need to log everything. We need to have this overflow of information, at least for the first few days, because we need to see if we're missing something, okay? And to achieve that, we need to log the rule base. You will be surprised on how many customers doesn't log anything, okay? We need to activate those blades, at least in detect, just to see what happened, okay? Just take care of your performance of the devices. And once we have these two, we have to perform some kind of threat modeling to see what we're missing. Maybe we can analyze the whole flow of an application to see all the middleware in between, all the containers, for example. Are we tracking enough? Are we having enough information? Okay. Once you solve that, you have to continue to the next question, which is, are we able to focus? Okay. It's easy in a security operations center to get lost in the sea of alerts and information. So your first priority should be to remove that noise or decrease it, okay? So you have a ton of logs and you have to start thinking about, okay, I don't need this. I will store it anyway because it can serve me for metrics purposes, but these logs are the one that I should take care of, okay? That information will depend on each organization. And then, of course, from the Checkpoint perspective, what we can do is decrease the noise, okay, by, for example, optimizing the threat prevention policy to decrease the false positives, okay? Then we need to advance to prevention versus detection, which is actually not a fight. There are two different levels of cybersecurity and protection itself. So when you first implement your IPS profile, and in most customers, you will find that they have the default IPS profile. Nobody cares about that. It seems that nobody has time to these custom profiles. So you need to see in the smart event on your SIEM, what percentage of detection versus prevention do you have? And you need to find the reasons for those detections. Are there false positives? I am applying some cylinders that don't apply to this technology, okay? And you should start switching them to prevention or whitelist them, okay, if needed. Always strive for prevention because detection is always too late. You still need detection, okay? You need someone that looks for that and stop the breach if it happens, but your primary goal should be prevention every time, okay? Once we achieve those 3 steps, we go to the last one, which is statistics and metrics, okay? You need to create a baseline. For example, how many false positives did we have last year, last month, last week? How many detections versus prevention do we have in a certain time frame, okay? How many gigas of logs are we processing? How many offenses or alerts are we generating? You need to create numbers because if you can measure, you can manage it, okay? And once you have those numbers, you need to perform threat modeling again and formulate hypotheses to see what else can you do. Is there any way that we can improve our cybersecurity? And of course, this is like an endless loop. So you have to continue and on and on and on. As I told you, if you apply this to your security operations, you will see a lot of changes in your cybersecurity posture. Let's go to the next tip. Oh, my favorite one, the false sense of security in firewall denies. I receive a ton of comments from customers that tell me, hey, Federico, you know what? We implemented this SIEM and we are seeing a lot of firewall denies. Everything is working fine. So little they know that most attacks, actual attacks, happen on the accept part of the logs, okay? Not in the denies. In the denies, what you can see is, for example, misconfigurations, denial of service attacks, and reconnaissance. But layer 3 denial of service attacks may be too complicated, maybe to track in your perimeter. So the most useful use cases that we can use for firewall denies is when, for example, an internal host is trying to do lateral movement or port scanning within the inside of your network. But as you can see in this graphic, this is a real graphic from a customer for the whole year. It generates a lot of noise to your SOC. So if you're trying to generate alerts based on firewall denies, make sure to fine tune the use cases, okay? Next one, I have personal history with this one actually. Anti-bot logs in the, okay, this is twofold. First, you need to know that mostly anti-bot works by analyzing the DNS request that you perform, okay? So if it sees that you're trying to connect to a command and control center, it will change the DNS reply with a trap. So that affected machine can't contact it, okay? But there are plenty of deployments that have the checkpoints firewalls set up as fail open. And that means that if the firewall is not able to perform threat inspection, let's say, it will allow the connection for the first time. As you can see in the log, I don't know if it's too small, but in anti-bot, first, if it's fail open, you need to do that classification of the DNS to know if it's malicious or not. After 3 seconds, we could see that the second attempt was prevented. Okay, as you can see, the DNS request was being replaced by the anti-bot feature. But the fun part is that you will always see a detect event in your SIEM and in Smart Console. And that may cause a lot of confusion and maybe a lot of severity 1 incidents, because this is like an important issue, okay? It may be a false positive, but it may indicate that an actual infection is going on in your environment. But one thing is to think that it wasn't prevented or stopped, and or is to think that, okay, it was stopped. We only need to take care of the server. So make sure to address these use cases in your SIEM and SOC. One of the best advices that I can give you is that you need to be able to kind of process the description part of the log and try to identify the event ID if your SIEM allows you to do so, so you don't create havoc and panic within your lines. Next tip. Monitoring your security solutions. This is also a funny one because most people tend to forget that Checkpoint runs on Red Hat. Basically, it's a Linux operating system and it's exposed in your network. It has credentials, it has IPs. You will be surprised on how many companies you can access the management port of the Checkpoint, even the management appliance or the firewalls or anything through any part of the network, even the remote VPN range. So in your SIEM and your SOC, you need to be sure that you're also addressing these use cases, okay? So the first advice that I can give you is firewalls, okay? You need to forward the syslog the logs to the management server. You can do it directly to the SIEM, but I recommend you to go through the management, okay? You can do this with the web interface or the command line interface. That will allow you to detect brute force login attempts in your firewalls, login attempts from unusual sources, for example, China, who knows, detect changes in the configuration. Let's say that someone tried to create a new route and it broke the whole thing, okay? And detect the creation of new admin users. Then we have to think about the same use cases for the management with the complexity that you have the application, which is the actual management server that you connect through the Smart Console, and of course the Linux that is underlying the application. So apply the same use cases as above, but also take into consideration, I will move so you can see, these funny and useful use cases. First, try to detect the creation of admin users in Smart Console. Okay, there are 2 different users, the one from the operating system and in Smart Console. Then you can also try to detect the changes in rules associated to critical devices. Okay, thanks to the Checkpoint API and the audit logs, you can totally do this and provide a lot of value to your consumers of the service. And last but not least, detect deactivation of the threat prevention features. How many times have you deactivated IPS just for troubleshooting and forgot about turning it on again? So keep that in mind. Then we have the last use case, which is one of my favorites, and it's remote workforce and your security operations center. So remote workforce has been like a trending topic for 2020, and it seems that it's going to be for 2021. I don't know about you, but for me as a cybersecurity professional, it was one of the most challenging things that I had to face, okay, how to secure a remote workforce. So let's analyze this real use case. First, this customer provides remote VPN services to the remote workforce and third parties. All the traffic was routed through the firewall, okay? You have two ways of deploying remote VPN access in Checkpoint, for example. You have the split tunnel, which is basically the user use their own ISPs to serve the web, and the VPN is only used for corporate traffic. But if you can do it, and it's recommended because you can enforce more security, you can forward all the traffic to your internal network, and then the user can surf the web through that, okay, through your firewalls. The issue with this is that you also need to secure that because people always tend to forget. We don't care about details until it's too late, okay? So in this case, no threat prevention policies were applied for the VPN range. One of the machines got infected, okay? We were only able to generate access logs in the firewall. It wasn't the firewall fault. I mean, the firewall has all the capabilities to stop this kind of threat. It's a really simple use case to stop. But thanks to the Security Operations Center and the SIEM, only by using the access logs, we were able to detect that thanks to threat intelligence and indicator of compromise and prevent the breach, okay? Of course, that after that, we contacted the customer and assisted him in how to prevent these measures from happening, because detect is always the last line of defense. Remember that. So what we recommended is, for example, enable geolocalization in your firewall. Okay, if your clients are only connecting from France, let's say, then allow only France. There's no reason to allow other countries for a specific network segment. Okay, you can do this with dynamic objects or with the embedded geolocalization restrictions. Then you need to apply zero trust. Try to not use the whole network mask to allow the traffic. Try to use identities. Try to see what specific access do you need for that user, okay? Of course, adjust the threat prevention profiles. You have to apply threat prevention to the network VPN range, to the remote VPN range. I mean, it's nothing different. It's the same networks, TCP, anything is similar. And then remember to focus on prevention. Detection is always too late. But of course, we have to give some credit to the Security Operations Center because it was the last line of defense, okay? It was able to detect misconfigurations on that VPN range. And of course, it was able to correlate the logs against various feeds of threat intelligence so we could detect that command and control communication. And of course, we can apply user behavior analytics to see if there's something odd or an anomaly in the user behavior. For example, for us, it would be like really strange for a marketing user to open a shell prompt to a Linux device. So we can have that information in a SOC and act upon various parts of cybersecurity. Just to finish the presentation, I wanted to share with you some real-world statistics. If you are looking to implement a SIEM in your organization or a SOC, in our case, we measure the logs by events per second, and different SIEMs have different metrics. This customer has 6 firewalls. It has CloudWatch SaaS, SandBlast agents, around 300 megabytes of internet connection, and it processes 1 gigabyte of logs per day. As you can see, firewalls usually generate a lot of data. We are around 400 EPS, okay, per second, sorry. And this is like an aggregated vision of what we see of events in Checkpoint. As you can see, if you just focus on the simple things, you are going to miss the bigger picture, which is there's a lot of information about firewalls accepts and drops, which is 59% and 29%, but you need to drill down in that graphic to find actually useful information, okay? So this is a call to action to all of you. Remember that I am a network security professional, but I encourage you to go back to the cybersecurity roots. You need to start asking questions. You need to start using the security features of your infrastructure. And of course, always try to achieve infinity, especially with Checkpoint. If you have any security needs, feel free to contact us. We can really help you. And you have my contacts at the bottom of the presentation if you want to contact me personally. And that's going to be all for today.